Shalom Yashrala, this your brother Dawada, coming back as you read this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rukakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, I can push in this truth as sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here article, which is by RT. It says, America founded on slavery, teaching the inaccurate claims of the 1619 project in U.S. schools is dangerous folly. All right, let me grab a scripture real quick to start this here off. It's Jeremiah 16 and verse 19, I believe. It says, we'll start, we'll start at verse, I'll start at verse 16. It says, Jeremiah 16 and 16, Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith Yahweh, and they shall fish them, and after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. For my eyes are upon all their ways, they are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. All right, going into basically the wicked. You know, the Lord's going to send out many fishers to fish the elect. Then he's going to send out the hunters to hunt the wicked, you know. But nevertheless, talking about the wicked, all right, it says, for my eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. So what they're trying to do is hide all these things, right? It says, and first I will recompense their iniquities and their sins double, because they have defiled my land and have filled my inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. This is going into what Esau has pretty much programmed us into being, you know, like what we think of as so-called black culture, all right, like black people food, right? We call it chitlins and all this pork stuff or whatever, whatnot. You know, this is what all Esau gave us as slop on the plantations, you know, indoctrinating us into these wicked things, you know. Oh, we were just slaves and savages out there in Africa or whatever, whatnot. You know, he put all these things into our minds, right? So it says, verse 19, verse 19. Oh, Yahweh, my strength, my fortress, and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited laws, vanity in the things wherein there is no profit. So we're going to go into how their fathers inherited laws, because in this here article, all right, this is what they're basically complaining about, how this is such a wicked situation is going on, because they're trying to teach the true history of America. All right, it says America founded on slavery, teaching the inaccurate claims of the 1619 project in the U.S. schools is a dangerous folly. Now, was America not founded on slavery? All right. It says U.S. Senator Tom Cotton has introduced a bill to prevent the New York Times 16 project from being taught in American schools that receive federal funds. His right to do so, as is anti-U.S. propaganda, has no place there. Over the past year, the 1619 project has been a major talking point with regards to how the United States is looked at throughout history. So, I mean, come on, man. You don't have a criminal that's going on a criminal warpath or whatever, whatnot, and then the judge, you know, look at his past crimes and, you know, just ignore all those things, right? The project, a series of essays from the New York Times magazines, paint the U.S. as a place that was founded on the basis of slavery. So how was this propaganda? How was this folly? How was this dangerous? Was that not how America was founded? All right, this is exactly how America was founded, all right? They had slave ships that was coming over here from 1619 heavily. First of all, let's go back to the 1492. All right, let's just say the 1500s, all right? They actually had the so-called Native American Indians over here in slavery first, man. All right, but nevertheless, around 1619 is when the first slave ships started coming over here massively. All right, bringing you so-called Negroes over here. All right, so it says over the past year, the 1619 Salak. The project, a series of essays from the New York Times magazines, paint the U.S. as a place that was founded on the basis of slavery. Don't paint that. It just tells you that's what it is. All right, and among some of its more outlandish claims are the idea that black people have done more for democracy than white people, and that capitalism was invented by slavery, as my colleague Igor guy discussed last year. Now, when you understand capitalism is, if you got the money to do it, basically, then, you know, you pretty much rule. You know, you got the financial means to capitalize off something, then you good. So how did they get the capital to start these businesses and things like that, man? From free labor. Because why? They had slaves, man. All right, so now we're going to try to pretend like there was never no slaves here, that America never had slaves or nothing like that. Come on now. Why was there a civil war, so-called, according to them? The inaccuracies are one galling element of this. What is equally disturbing is that there are people who think this should be taught in schools. Some have already updated their curricula to include it. So how can you talk about American history, but you blatantly forget about, you know, how America was founded. All right, with the cotton gin, slavery, so on and so forth. Rosa Parks, not saying, you know, that, but all these things stem from that. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, so on and so forth, man. All right, so like for you to just erase all this history, it's just like what, y'all just woke up over here one day and you know, you just woke up in America one day and everything was built for you, right? Now, Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton has introduced a bill called Saving America History Act, which would strip federal funding from any school that has it in its curriculum. So what they're trying to do is strip out the history of how you so-called Negroes and Latinos was treated over here in America, right? The New York Times 1619 Project is racially divisive, revisionist accounts of history that denies the noble principle and freedom of equality on which our nation was founded. So they say that the nation was founded on equality, but what about the slaves, man? All right, what about the Jim Crow era, and so on and so forth? What about the lynching? All right, what about all these different things that was going on here, man? So what? There was no slaves here. What about the slave revolts that happened? Like, come on now, you take away that there was slavery over here. There's like a whole lot of history that was built off of all these things, man. All right, everything that was over here is basically built off of slaves. What about these plantations that you have still up to these days and these stories about these things, man? All right, what about all these different monuments and museums that you have to these different things, man? All right. It says federal funding shouldn't help indoctrinate young Americans with left-wing garbage. In reality, what they're trying to do is take this out and say basically that they just woke up over here as, you know, white folks, and this was always their land. God gave it to them from birth, you know? I mean, really, they would have to cut out the whole Christopher Columbus bullshit, you know, because they came over here and found other people over here. So what, you just saying you was here from the beginning? It says, with any situation like this, one should consider free speech. Does the New York Times and anyone else involved in this have the right to publish the 1619 Project? Absolutely. But the bill isn't proposing to make it illegal by any means. The fact that the government shouldn't be using taxpayers' dollars to subsidize nonsense. But what they're really saying is the taxpayers' dollars should be used to cover up these here lies, or to cover up this here as a lie, you know? Oh, no. There was no such thing as slavery here in America. Let's spend tax dollars to indoctrinate these so-called white folks and these Negroes and Latinos. They was never slaves over here. The so-called white man just was, he spawned on this here land, and then the so-called Negroes and the Latinos invaded this land, and now they're illegal immigrants that just came over here, popped up, and now they trying to defend their land or some shit. Like, no, that's completely inaccurate, man. It says, though I'm not a parent where I be, though I'm not a parent where I would, select, though I'm not a parent where one would wonder what on earth was going on if schools were teaching that the world was molded by, I'm not sure what that word is, and starborn ones. That would be preposterous, and clearly my tax dollars shouldn't go to such thing. It's a waste of money. The same can be said in the 1619 Project. I'd rather any future children of mine learn the truth. What was the truth then? What are you really saying with this article? What are you saying? You rather them learn the truth that what? That Negroes was never slaves over here? All right, because you already denounced the fact that you all had slaves. All right, so apparently nobody ever had slaves. The slaves were just over here working because they enslaved themselves and worked the whole land and just gave it over to the so-called white man. You know, we built our own ships, took our own families over into slavery, put our own self on the plantations, built all this here up, then laid down and gave it all to the so-called white man, you know, just because we were generous, right? There are two significant issues that arise with the teaching of the 1619 Project in American schools. The first is, of course, the subsidizing of anti-American propaganda. The second is that we'd also be bankrolling the results of it. Why on earth would a government want to tax dollars to go towards content that's meant to indoctrinate people to despise their own nation? Really, if you wasn't doing such horrific crimes, all right, it's like a father who went out and raped some women or whatever, whatnot, and now he's going to jail on trial, and he has to explain to his son why he going to jail and everything like that. It's like, yo, well, I'm going to jail because the police is just racist and they picked me up, despite the fact that the women you was over there raping. Like, nah, you was doing some wicked shit, and this is your punishment for it. Over the last couple of months, America has been blighted by people who believe exactly that, tearing up our cities, millions of dollars of damage have been seen across the country, all brought by Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And this is why we tell you about this Black Lives Matter, which is formed by George Soros, the so-called white man. Of both of these organizations, which believe America is inherently racist, which the 1619 Project proclaim as well. Like, again, when they came over, there was already people over here based off of their race. They wound up slaughtering the so-called Native Americans and brought other people over here based off of their race to put them in here to enslave them. Why would the federal government ever want to have this mess happen again? The fact that Most people are fed up with the far left doctrine. It's about time the government finally said no. By all means, 1619 Project can be published and people are welcome to read it, put in a library even, but just remember it belongs in the fiction section. So again, they saying it's all fake and it's all a lie that so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans was ever in slavery, that slave ships didn't happen, like so on and so forth, you know. But hey, this is these damn devils, you know, and then more and more is coming out, you know. So let's jump to some scriptures. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach. 10 and 8. It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. All right. And so this is why, hey, you starting to see this here kingdom being transferred unto the hands of the Israelites. Also, according to prophecy, that Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. But Esau's been ruling under his deceitfulness, his lies, and things like that. But now truth is starting to flourish on the earth, and it's starting to consume and destroy all these lies and all these strongholds and all these different things like that, man. All right. But what are they trying to do? Come back out with their witchcraft and be deceitful and cover these things back up again. All right. This is what you actually starting to see what's happening right here before your eyes. The fact that people are waking up to their damn lies, man, and they're trying to put that covering back over your face. Reading that again, Sirach 10 and 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. This is how they got all these riches, by deceit. The kingdom is translated from one people to another. And this is why you're starting to see the so-called awokenness of the history that happened here. You know, 2/3 of our people, majority of our people used to fight us tooth and nail about talking about slavery and things. Now they want to keep pushing about slavery, the slave ships, reparation, the year return, the 400-year prophecy, all these different things which go on touching back onto slavery, right? But now the so-called white man wants to so-called say that these things never happened, all right? Because now they're starting to see that basically they done ran up a bill and now they have to pay for it, all right? This is the book of what am I looking for? Okay, Habakkuk 2, and I'm gonna start at verse 5. See, yea, also because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. All right. So, hey, he's a proud man, neither keepeth at home. He came from one side of the globe to the other side of the globe to conquer and went back over there to conquer the rest. All right. Who enlarges his desire as hell, and his death cannot be satisfied, but gathers unto him all nations and heapeth to him all people. He didn't gather the people up under him. We didn't gather the people to stand side by side with him. He gathered the people to basically rule over them, to enslave all the people, man. The earth was given to the hand of the wicked. He has everybody under his wing right now, man. All right. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long into him that ladeth himself with thick clay? And this is what you're starting to see happen right now. A lot of these nations are separating from America because of the thick clay, the debt that they have. The lies are being exposed about them. You have so-called Black Lives Matter protests arising throughout the whole world, even though we know this is by George Soros' design. But nevertheless, you having this so-called awokenness happening around the whole globe about the iniquity and the controversy of Zion, more or less to say, all the atrocities happening to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booty unto them? All right, and this is what these other nations are posturing for right now, to come and spoil Babylon for their wickedness, you know? Everybody else is crying out for all the wickedness that they've done and apologizing for the slavery in their hand that they had and the downfall of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but America's still being proud. Verse 8, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee because of men's blood and for the violence of the land of the city that dwell therein. And this is what they're trying to escape, the violence of all these other people and the blood that's on their hands, man. All right, woe to him that covet an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people and sinned against thy own soul. Jumping down to verse 12. Woe to him that buildeth the town with blood and established the city with iniquity. All right. Behold, it is not of Yahweh of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for the very vanity. So, hey, man, they trying to say that, oh, they didn't build this nation on slavery and so on and so forth. They didn't do all these different things. All right. But nevertheless, look at what's going on. Their wickedness is being uncovered, man, because they built this here town on blood and iniquity, man. And everybody's crying out and saying that now, saying that now because of the fact that America was built off of slavery, but they're trying to sweep it under the rug. They keep touting about that they're the golden nation, the best nation, so on and so forth, the richest nation. But in reality, it's all based off of the slavery that they wound up having over here, you know? It's Jeremiah 22, I'm going to start at verse 13. Woe to him that buildeth his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that uses his neighbor's service without wages, and giveth him not for his work. So woe to you that basically, build your nation off of slavery, man. that saith, I will build me a wide house in a large chamber, that cutteth him out windows, and is sealed with cedar and painted with vermilion. Shalt thou reign because thou clothed thyself in cedar? Did not thy fathers eat and drink, who did judgment and justice, and then it was well with them? He judged the cause of the poor and the needy, and it was well with him. Was it not this to know me, saith Yahweh? But nevertheless, let me keep going. Verse 17, but thy eyes and thy heart are not but for thy covetousness, and for to shed innocent blood, for the oppression and for the violence to do it. All right, so going into this is how Esau got this here land, through blood and through violence, building up this here nation off of slavery, not paying for the wages thereof, They still trying to do that to the same day, not paying Jake the equal wages that they should be getting for their work, man. All right, so this whole place was established off of slavery, but yet what are they trying to do? Cover up this here thing with their wickedness and their deceitfulness, man, because they have a tab that they have to pay for, man. Thus saith the scriptures. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying unto the elect. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakak Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone that taught us his truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you all, can pushing his truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.